Here's the thing. I do think my experience is really worth sharing, and I think there is a lot of wisdom in there. I'm just saying, like, if you haven't gotten to that point, sometimes it's hard to see the bounty that it is to be single and not have a child yet in your 40s.
Welcome to the Expanded Podcast with your host, Lacey Phillips. As a leading manifestation advisor with a process that's, well, radically different from the old New Age model, mine is rooted in psychology, neuroscience, and my energetic gifts. I created this podcast to help you expand your subconscious limiting beliefs about the potential of deserving the manifestations you're calling in. Therefore, you're tuning into this podcast series to show your subconscious that anything you desire is possible. And by pressing play, you've already started the process of manifesting it. If you enjoy this episode, please leave us a review, comment, and share it with your fellow manifester that's struggling or could really benefit from the information that you're about to learn. I just got back from a beautiful, beautiful weekend up at the house with a great group of friends and their really wonderful children, although they were all under 6. And that strongly made me reconsider having children. And they're wonderful, but boy, do I see you parents out there who hardly get a moment to ground, to be present, to center. Your spread so thin. And I forget, I really helped raise my siblings, but I was so much younger and not very present then and in fight or flight all the time. So to me, it's just very Irish and normal to just keep raising kids. But I really got to see how much I cultivated such deep self-care and quietness and doing this work. So I just really wanted to reflect that to any parents listening. I see you. You are doing the most important job in the world, and it is hard. It is so hard. And now we have a very strongly enforced 8 and up child policy at the house, just because I realized how neurotic I am. And also the intention of why I created it. I really created it for a space to go and get present and do this work and reconnect with the earth and peel off everything that is preventing you from being your fully authentic self, and to have the quiet space to do that. And it was such a beautiful, this time is the most beautiful time of year. I think you guys have heard me say that 1,000 times, but you have the cicadas at night that are just, it was actually incredible to see one of the kids who has primarily grown up in Los Angeles, had never really seen, he kept saying, "Mom, it's so dark here. It's so dark here." And I was like, well, let me take you guys out to show you the stars on the deck. You can fully see them. And they were like, wow, isn't this beautiful? These tiny kids. But I guess that's the difference. When you grow up in the city, you don't get to take that in, that quietness and the sound of nature and how cold it gets at night, but you have the heat all day. The first thing I did was park the car and headed to the river at that perfect 3 p.m. spot where just me alone on a little sand bed and that fresh snow melt that's so clear, perfect temperature right now, just soaking in that heliotherapy, and so grateful to be alive and connecting with everything that's been on that land before, and how thankful I was. And we spent all day Saturday. There's this one hike. I don't even know the name because I'm from there. So I want to say it's Sweetwater Mine, I think. And so there's this one hike. It's pretty close to the house, right by an apple orchard. And right now is when all of the blackberries are perfectly ripe and ripening. So if you're thinking to go do the journey we just did, you'll want to go now, ASAP, book ASAP. But we collected a ton of blackberries, and the kids pitched in, and even the dogs were foraging blackberries off the vines. Took them back, and my friend Jamie made a beautiful blackberry cobbler recipe of a friend, an internet friend who I hope to have on this podcast someday, My New Roots, who was actually my expander for starting the blog in the first place. So we followed her recipe for that. It turned out incredible. We went to the fair to watch my dad rope, although we didn't really get to it because the kids were tired. And so they rode rides and went up to Yosemite and swam in that river. And so, yeah, I just had to convey the magic. And for anybody who's curious, we have a special price running through September and October. So you can click the link below, and it's a 2-night minimum, and go enjoy, all the amenities. Go do the infrared sauna, the hammock, the 2 clawfoot tubs that stare up at the stars. There's a biomat in the rooms and all that good stuff. But I don't get to go back until October. I left, and it's, my heart was sad. I was so sad, but I have so much work going on and travel in September that I'm not back there. So that is sad, but I'm excited for you guys to enjoy. I'm also really excited because on a whim, I booked my trip to the Highlands. So I'll be going there from October 14th, London, and into Scotland, October 14th through the 21st. And so I'm going to go hit the whole Aberdeen side and then head over to the opposite side. And I'm really just kind of searching for that house experience. So I'm going totally solo. This is the very first time I've ever traveled alone. I felt the calling of the land was calling me, and ever since I booked it, I'm so lit up and excited to road trip by myself, connect by myself, hike by myself, meet locals by myself, and tour all these properties. So if there are any unblocked villages, please message in, because I do want to come say hi and join you guys. So if there are any in Scotland, let us know. You can email us directly or drop a note in the DMs of Instagram. And I really hope to connect with you. What is there new to share with you this week? My roundups are coming back, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be sending stuff straight to the inboxes through newsletters now. So if you're not signed up, do sign up, but that way it comes directly to you. But I guess there is one thing to share. You all keep asking me about a dress I'm wearing. I've been doing some Instagram IGTVs answering your questions. You can go look at those on the feed and the link below, but I've been wearing kind of a very Victorian black dress, and it's by a designer I discovered when I swear nobody else was wearing her, Bathsheba. So we can link that dress below. It's kind of my go-to little black in between summer working into fall, and it'll actually be a really sweet little black holiday dress as well. So there's that. Otherwise, I'm really heavy back onto the castor oil packs on my liver, also sort of in the reproductive area. I've been doing, actually, I'll just link below this seminar that I watched by this woman named Karen Hurd that I'm about to start working with. And I'm also working with Unique Hammond, who completely healed from Karen. I talked about that a ton in last week's episode in the intro. And she's the one who's all about fat-soluble fibers all throughout the day to pull the bile from your liver and detoxify it out of your body. She's a great seminar that we'll link below. It explains it all, and I'm heavy into it, and I'm seeing a difference. So I'm going to keep following it, and I'll keep you guys posted on that. Otherwise, let's get into talking about today's guest, who will need almost no introduction whatsoever, Garance Doré. There were so many pivotal points while we were talking. I think many of you are going to find this episode expansive, but we were talking and I realized how much our lives and our energy and personality have paralleled each other through the years. And it was really, really beautiful to have the opportunity to have somebody who's so vulnerable and honest and feels like home when she's speaking, really open up to all of us and serve as an expander. Not only is she totally self-made by going against the grain and following her pursuit, but this Corsican native is also incredibly open about her age, being in her 40s and being single and navigating her dating experience and her journey, if she wants to go that direction, to motherhood, her journey that it's been in the past through fertility. We go, so much into the stories of her childhood. I think you'll relate, many of you, to her childhood experiences. You know, she's incredibly open about those. I think you'll find her expansive if you too have had the inspiration to become an artist and make a living out of it, and also to reinvent yourself and pivot your career each time your soul craves that, and to learn how to be unapologetic about it, but also navigating it with grace, humility, and openness. I think she's so expansive from a woman who seems like she has it all, but can also speak to the groundedness of how magical it is to be right where you are and enjoying that. So, I mean, I don't want to say too much about this. I want you all to get in and really, really dive deep. And it's definitely back to our old expander format, because I have to say that Garance definitely in many facets serves as not only an expander, but to every woman who's wanting to beat to her true, authentic drum and let that take her fearlessly wherever it's supposed to go. So listen up and enjoy. Welcome to the Expanded Podcast. We have, I would say, a great expander of mine in many ways. I have many business questions for you that I'm excited about. But we have Garance Doré here.
Hi, Lacey.
Hello, welcome.
Thank you.
The first question I ask everybody is, what's your cultural background and upbringing? Even though I've had the privilege of hearing a lot about it, tell us from the beginning.
From the beginning?
Short and sweet, but in the beginning.
Okay. Well, I come from Corsica. I think it's a big part of my identity. I come from a family of immigrants. My mom was born in Algeria from a Moroccan mother and an Algerian dad. So kind of a Muslim background, but my mom was not practicing. And then she married my dad, and my dad he's a first generation Italian, and they met in Ajaccio in Corsica. And they were very young. My mom had me when she was 20. So I don't know, like my background is a lot of cultural mix, which I think I really represent today, and a lot of curiosity. And when I was born, they were pretty poor. And then my dad comes from a family of like chefs. My grandma was a very famous chef. She had a tiny restaurant that was like mighty, like everybody would go there and all that. So my dad kept doing that, and he didn't really want to do that, but he ended up in a kitchen and started in that trajectory. And he ended up, owning like quite an important restaurant in Corsica. And so we went from poor to like pretty, we had a nice house and nice cars and all that. So that was when that kind of changed between my, when I was born and I was 10 or like my teenage. That's when my parents started making a lot of money, and my mom was starting to buy gowns from Jean-Paul Gaultier, Thierry Mugler. And
where was she wearing them? In Corsica at the restaurant?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, nothing would stop her. I was sometimes feeling really weird. She had like everything, it was the 80s, beginning of the 90s, like the end of the 80s. And her hair was like imagine everything, like high heels every day. Even in my village, which is kind of like where we are now, it's like Topanga. She would wear super high heels. And I was like, this is my mom.
Like to the market?
Oh, yeah. Like she was, she just had that thirst, and so she was just being herself, and she was really hot, beautiful, and she was having fun. And that also destroyed my parents' couple, because they ended up divorcing and all that. But I think the teenage and childhood and like youth she didn't have, she kind of like had it at 30. She's a very, very funny person. She just started smoking again. She's like, yeah, I'm 60 now. I can smoke.
Oh, yeah. It's fair game now. Exactly. Who cares? It would have been better at 70 if she was like, whatever, I'm bringing this back. Wow.
Exactly. So, so always kind of great taste on the both side. Also, Corsica is a place, it's very Italian. People care about how they look. It's like this small, look at the neighbor, how they're dressed and all that. So there is really that culture. So that can explain a lot of you know, why all my family is like, my sister is the same. We really care about beautiful things. And my mama had this like artful way, even when we didn't have money or in the ups and downs of her life, to always make a nice meal, a nice environment, nice clothes, you know, whether she had money or not. So, and then my dad is more like this quiet, very kind-hearted, simple man that's great talent in the kitchen and you know, yeah. So I don't know if I talk too much or...
No, you did great. I think you painted the perfect picture. And I think it's worth mentioning, we always cosmically profile on here, and you're a Taurus sun.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know your moon and rising?
Virgo, I think, rising.
Okay.
I don't remember my moon.
And have you even started to dip your toes into human design yet?
I will.
Okay.
But I haven't really. I knew my stuff, but I kind of forgot. You did?
I know. I hypothesized that you're potentially a generator.
Oh, okay.
I feel like you may be, or maybe an MG. So only time will tell whenever you discover it.
Okay. It's like a birth date, right?
It is, yeah, birthday, birth time. We'll have to look it up after, maybe.
Yeah, I would love that.
It's a whole nother world. You may not even want to go down the rabbit hole of knowing systems about yourself.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I'm like, how much do we need to know?
Or just survive.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I think you've probably said this on many podcasts and maybe many things and press you've done, but give us the short snippet, because I think you're very expansive to a lot of people who grew up potentially not believing that they could be an artist or that would be a future for them, lucrative future, pivoting into how you began your art, then into photography and your brand.
Yeah. You know, it's always the same thing when you're little. People are like, oh, that's so great. You make good drawings. You're so artistic. My mom was pushing me to do music. So I was playing the cello, guitar. I was actually very talented at music. And like, I was just this artistic kid. I just had it in me. I was also an introvert. I was very shy. I learned not to be shy later. And so, you know, that was my way of communicating and dealing with stuff. And then grew up. And when I told my parents I wanted to study arts, I was like, no way.
Yeah.
You know? So I don't know at which point we want kids to be artistic, but then we don't want them to grow into it. Yeah, it's so weird. So I'm a firstborn, so I am pretty obedient and a people pleaser, and I want peace around me, and I'm very connected and in tune with people. And so even without, I mean, I had a rebellious time, but like, it was really hard for me to say, oh, I'm going to do my thing, because I just didn't want to disappoint my parents. And I also was pretty good at school. So, you know, I could do stuff. And so I started studying, but actually wasn't really into it. Like, I studied different stuff. And, you know, I kind of was very frustrated, but I was in my 20s, and it's so hard to know what we want at that time.
I just can't believe society puts pressure. Think of how many adaptations we have in our 20s that we shift and we think we know what we want, but we have no clue. And Saturn return hits, and that's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah, well, when it hit, it's at 27, right? Yeah, so that's the moment. So I did a lot of things, but like slowly I realized that all my friends were artists. You know, I think the creative side of me just expressed itself wherever it could. Started like, you know, friends. And then I was like, well, maybe I could live without a lot of money and then do my creative life. I didn't even know what I wanted to do. Like, maybe I wanted to be a musician, or even like at this time, I was like, maybe I just work in music, like, you know, and I was organizing concerts. I was doing stuff with my friends. I was writing for the local newspaper that we started, and, you know, small things like that. And I didn't have a lot of confidence in myself. So I was kind of losing time, partying around, which I know in America, partying sounds really bad, but it was a good thing. You know, I was listening to music, going to concerts, going to rave parties. I learned a lot of things through that. I know now we talk a lot about hallucinogenic drugs and all that, but like, I always felt this was a great school for me. I had always like, I was always a very grounded person. So all these years were very important. But then at 27, I was like, well, I'll made a choice. I was like, I'll have a life with less needs and figure it out. And I had like always jobs because my parents didn't pay for anything, my studies or all that. But I was a supervisor in, high schools and all that. So that's what I was doing. That was keeping me alive.
Eating.
So it was this kind of fun mess, lots of friends, lots of people, like hitchhiking for vacation. Like
this was still in Corsica?
No, I had moved to the south of France. Yeah, I was living in Marseille. And I was just doing all my experiences and all, which is great to live there because we would drive for the weekend to Barcelona, go to Italy. It's very central, and it's just like, so you can just discover the world, Europe. So it was really nice.
No, it's fine. We're always honest on here. So we have 3 dogs here. Garance brought her really sweet dog, and then we also inherited Marigold today, who usually goes with my fiance. And so they're in separate areas now. It didn't go over as well as planned as being pals.
Yeah, and Lulu has been consigned to the bedroom.
She has the
and
biomat.
Sometimes she will say something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She also has input on this conversation.
Yeah, exactly.
What I didn't realize about Marseille, which sounds so ignorant, I went to Uzès last year, and it has such a Roman influence. I had no idea that the South did.
What do you mean?
Like there's Roman ruins everywhere. I mean, I sound so ignorant, I think, but I was totally floored by that. It was beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, it's a beautiful city. I guess like as a south of France European, I'm just so used to that.
Of course, you're like, there's another church. It's like a tree.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's true though. In Corsica, you have a lot of, I grew up sleeping in a tower that's from the 1400s.
I know.
It's just like, so yes, Marseille is it's one of the most beautiful cities. It's just like when I was living there, I was really poor, which was also why I could afford to have a fucking like nice, easy life. But so violence, difficult city, but also amazingly beautiful. You have all the calanques, which is like, those little creeks that you can walk. It's magical. And, I want to say one of the things I love the most about the South is people are really funny. People are so funny. And so that's one thing I really miss. And when I live in Paris for a few years, I was like, oh my God, I know.
Everyone's so serious.
Well,
or chic is a good word.
No, it's not really that. It's just a fundamentally different atmosphere. Like it's not warm, in terms of like how people, Parisians are great. It takes them a lot of time to open their arms to you, like a lot of time. And their first, look will always be kind of stern. And so, yeah. So I, when I moved there, you know me, I'm
so warm.
It's very warm. Yeah. And that's part of my culture. And even more if you add the Italian and Moroccan, which is like, hospitality is so important. Like, come in, like, who are you? Curiosity and all that. And in Paris, like, people are like, hi. I was like, oh my God. Very, very intimidating. Yeah.
And when did you start actually having your career take off?
Oh, yeah. So as I said, like 27, I was like, well, I'm going to start being an illustrator. I've kind of crystallized my artistic desires on that because I could draw and started by myself. I put myself in danger there. It might be interesting for your listeners and like with your work and all that. Because I was always keeping those jobs. I've worked all my life. So I started when I was 14 and anything I've done, basically I've paid for it. So I wanted to travel a lot. So when I was 14, I went to England. When I was 16, I came to America, to LA for the first time with the money I made, working at my dad's restaurant, or like I was like, I don't know. I did a lot of jobs until one day I found the best job in the world. Started selling croissants.
Oh, dream. You also gained 20 pounds or something while doing
Well, you don't gain 20 pounds when you're 16.
I know, of course.
No, I had a little boat.
Oh.
And I was selling croissants, the boats that stay the night.
That's so cute.
Well, yeah, and that was very lucrative too.
Wow.
Yeah, so I was making a lot of money. I was independent. So, exactly how I want to be, which is like no boss. I was doing my thing. Basically, like I was using my dad's kitchen. So I was lucky to have that and like doing that. And I was selling with like kind of upping the price quite a bit.
Good job.
Because of the delivery and like being all cute. I'm like, I want a croissant. Yeah. And I was like, I paid all my studies with that.
Wow.
Yeah. It was like, I was making a lot of money. I mean,
that was your version of stripping or something when people have to do that.
I guess.
I'm just kidding.
I guess. Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah. But I was waking up at like, I loved it because I was waking up at like 5 in the morning. I mean, imagine a Corsican village, okay? Me, like, I was like, not because we owned it or whatever, but because this is a small village, I figured out a way. I had a room in the Genovese Tower. Mm-hmm. You know those towers we have in Corsica?
Are they the ones that overlook if
yes.
people are going to intrude?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So there is a beautiful one that's one of the most beautiful in Corsica in my village. It's a fortified one. So it looks like a castle. And there is a room up, at the top of it. And I had managed to be able to stay there for the summer. Like sometimes it was on a lower level, but basically I spent maybe 10 years all summers like staying in the tower. Yeah. And because nobody wanted to stay there.
Yeah. So
like,
you were kind of a manager of it as well, like looked after it?
Staying.
Wow.
Just staying. Because like, it's just like at that time, now it's been bought by the state, but at that time it was belonging to our friends, because the village is so small. It's like 3 families. So, and they were like, oh yeah, you can stay there. Here are the keys,
Wow. And that's such a beautiful experience for a dreamer.
Oh my God.
You just like dream about your life in that.
Yeah. And so it was like every night I was sleeping mostly like under the stars, just like taking out my rolling something, and my friends would come and we'll all sleep like under the stars. And then at 5, my alarm would go off and I would walk under the stars, go to my kitchen, put the croissants in the oven. And as the croissants were like, getting ready, I would make myself a coffee, sit on the terrace of the restaurant and watch the sunrise. And then my brother would wake up and he was helping me with the delivery. I'd like put all the croissants in the boat and then start delivering them. By 9, I was finished.
Wow.
And it's kind of a, one of these beautiful memories. I remember every day I knew exactly where the sun would rise.
Wow.
It was nice. And I always loved waking up early. So that was cool.
Were you in perfect health growing up in Corsica?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Do you feel like you are here in New York as well?
What do you mean?
So like ever struggling with any autoimmune or any issues internally versus when you were young? Did you look back and go, oh, I was so strong. My immunity was strong. I never really got sick. I was a tough kid. And
yeah, but I always feel like that still now. I mean, I guess I probably because, I know I probably have some inflammation. I'm the people who never get sick often have a very high autoimmune system, but sometimes too much.
Yeah, exactly.
Will create inflammation. But yeah, I mean, I've always struggled with anxiety.
You did say, yeah.
Yeah, so that's one thing. And probably, I don't know, like, because I had my first depression. I don't know if I could call it depression, but depressive state when I was 17. Mm-hmm. So very sensitive. But that's not physical. I mean, I don't know. Yeah. It's everything is physical and emotional. But like, my body, I've always felt very confident that it was good,
healthy. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Never had any allergies. I grew up in dirt. So.
Exactly. That's why. Yeah. And like barefoot, looking at the sun.
Exactly.
I mean, it's the best
I don't know.
Thing
like
I
would take my shower in the ocean. Yeah. And be salty all summer.
Exactly.
And honestly, like, I don't know, we had dogs everywhere. And it was, I mean, I posted some photos recently on my Instagram and I really look like a wild child. And that was fine. That was great.
Yeah.
That was beautiful.
That's incredible. So then you started in Paris is where you started to really work with your art, or Marseille?
No, in Marseille. I started in Marseille at 27. I just want to go fast on that. But basically didn't succeed for a few years. But the cool thing is because this is the Expanded podcast, I told myself, okay, I'm going to give myself a year to make it as an illustrator, which is completely dumb. But what was important is that, of course, after a year, I was nowhere, but I was happy. So I was like, don't let go. It's like a year, and then I was supposed to go back get a job. And I was like, no, keep going. And so
what was that little thing inside of you that said keep going, so people can find that dial within themselves?
Yeah, that's a very good question. I guess it's signs of interest and just a sign of peace, and just a knowing, something like that, just very.
And I know you had made the decision to live a more humble life if you were going to take this route, but did you have any of that stuff creeping in from society? My age, my blah, 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 I'm not successful. Was that tuning in?
I never had the age thing until I was trying to have a baby.
I know. Great. Yeah. We'll get into that.
Yeah. Never. I still don't have it. I can't believe my age because I'm what? And now I'm dating and all that because I'm single. It's really funny actually because I don't know. We'll talk about it. But no, I never had that. I've always been I started my blog when I was 31 and, it was kind of old. But
I did too at 30, I think, is when I started on this path.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So society, no, I mean, listen, my mom was hating what I was going through. And so she barely talked to me for a while. So I had to deal with that. My dad has always been kind of laissez-faire in a good and a bad way, but better, I think, than what my mom kind of put on me, which was barely talking to me for a while. And at that time, I hadn't worked out my relationship with her. So she was everything to me, what she thought was incredibly, I took me a while to get out of her sphere of
that
influence.
Enmeshment.
Very. And the funny thing is, if I would have done this podcast 15 years ago or something, I would have also sounded very grounded and but and that's why today I'm always very humble about thinking I know who I am and where I am, because I thought I had a good relationship with my mom, but now I realize, oh my God,
that wasn't healthy.
That was not healthy. But that's funny. There is so many things to talk about because at the same time, you know what? I wanted to prove so much to her that I became very successful.
I think about that all the time with my parents.
It's if I had been easy and oh, you're great, I would probably not be where I am. I mean, it's terrible to say, but...
No, I believe that we have the perfect recipe.
Yeah.
We choose the perfect recipe to come in with to push us in all the directions we have to. And then it's our karma to heal it. That's our responsibility.
Well, that's the interesting thing because yes, but my will was also to push past my boundaries. So it was this weird mix. And truly, I think it's part of her education.
Oh, I think so as well.
You know what I mean?
Totally.
So it's she gave me the poison and she also gave me the remedy.
Yeah.
So, but I used both. And so some people would maybe just, I think our own decisions really also, I consciously pushed myself out of my condition. I did
do
it
too. Yeah.
And I'm still doing it, every day. I'm challenging what I think, what people think, all these things.
I
it's
think
very
that's
important.
So good for every listener to hear, because that's sort of the journey I think most of them are on, or how can I do that? Push past all expectations and comfort and all the things, which are great. Okay. And then how did you make the jump from the blog? Well, I guess the blog, did that go hand in hand with photography? Because that became very big for you.
Okay. So what happened was that I kept going with the illustration. I started getting some jobs and then I was like, wow, this is the shittiest career path that anybody could pick because you don't make money. You just don't make money. Sometimes you get a break and you have a big contract, but like it's hard. And I was like, okay, I think I need to give up. But before I give up, I'm going to open a blog and I'm going to see. I was also very disappointed by the kind of commissions that I got. I was, it was a lot of girl doing this and that, and I was like, I can't do that on I don't have it in me. So I was like, okay, I want to do something that's just for me and see where it takes me. And so I opened a blog, and in the beginning it was just for illustration.
And was this at the time, what even platform was this on?
It was a French platform called Fort.
Okay.
Because actually, yes, I'm a pioneer, but at this time, French people really took the blog thing to heart. And like there was a lot of like personal diaries online.
Wow.
Yeah, much earlier than in America.
Wow.
So it was 2006.
Okay. That's great. And then that led into photography.
Well, yeah. So I started doing illustration. And then as soon as I started writing a few words, I got comments. And actually it stayed an illustration and text blog for a while. Maybe a while is like, because from there on, things started moving very, very, very fast. Right? So 3 weeks after I opened my blog, a magazine called me, wanting to do a little story on me. Then I started writing more. People started falling in love with, what I was talking about, which was funny and self-deprecating. And I think I had this like mix of like chic, but also, and very, very soon I also kind of challenged what was going on the internet with talking about luxury and all that, where it used to be a platform, like a world where it was all about cheaper things and all that. And so I started talking about that, and then started getting jobs for illustration really fast. And I was like, something is happening. And
you could feel it.
Oh, yeah. And so I was living in Marseille with my boyfriend. It was kind of I felt like I was in limbo, doing my thing. Nobody saw it. I was, how like...
It's the in-between. I always say like it's the
happy,
small shell.
But like comfortable. I could have stayed there. That's what I said. Life is kind of full of like traps where you could stay.
I always I don't know how yours comes, and I'm curious, but I'll get a little whisper in my ear that's like, leave now. How do you get those pings? It's time to transition.
Well, now I've made it a lifestyle. So, but at that time, it's just like, I guess I'm adventurous. And when I know what I have somewhere, like one of the biggest decisions I made was when I was 27, because at that time there was two paths in front of me. I could become a teacher because I had studied literature and all that. And I was like, okay, either I take in France, in order to become a teacher, you take these, like, how do you call that? Tests that are very hard. And then you get a job if you pass them, and you can try many times. So I was like, either I go there and I have a job where I can do my art on the side, right? Because it's not a lot of hours, or I drop everything and I become whatever. And so when I looked at these two paths, there was like one path where I was like, I know exactly where I am and how much I'm going to make in 35 years, and when it's going to be, I could book my next vacation for the next 10 years because I always know when it's going to be. And it's going to be great, and I'm going to have a great life, but it's going to be that. But if I choose the other thing, I could be sleeping under the bridges, but I could also, the sky is the limit. Anything could happen. And when I looked at these two, I was like, I'm going to try the other, the crazy way. And I can always fall back on something. I figured out at some point with my first internship that I was good at work. It was very important to me because coming from a restaurant world, you have no idea what you would be in a work. So I had my first, there's so much, but I had my first internship in a movie theater, like an art and essay, like something really cool. It's a funny story. I don't know if I should tell it.
I'm open.
Okay. So I had no confidence in myself. This little Corsican girl, go to Marseille, study, and then I have to have an internship and I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna try. And I'm very much like a go knock on doors type of person. So this is weird mix of like being a little shy, but also trusting that I have charisma and that people generator. Like that people will kind of like me, which is really funny because I just came back from a silent retreat. So remind me to tell you about it.
That, yeah.
So, and remember that what I'm saying is like, oh, I'm just gonna go knock on the door. And I remember it's very important because there was this pair of boots right in the store, and I was very broke all the time. That was my lifestyle was broke, but these boots were so like they made me dream and all that. And whatever, I don't know, I had that. I knew I was going to go there, and I got an interview, and I was like, I'm gonna buy these boots to go to that interview. And I bought the boots, and I went to the interview, and I was looking cool. And I had an interview with it was the Museum of Contemporary Art director of the place.
Wow. And
so I was very shy and didn't know what to say. And I had no knowledge whatsoever in art. Like, like I think the woman probably asked me like 3 questions. She was like, oh, God. But as I was walking out, there was a guy looking at me, you know, when I was walking down the stairs, and I said hi to him. And I left, and I was like, I'm never getting that internship. But I was like, I could push a little bit, you know. I was like, you know. And so, but I came back and I got a phone call, and it was the guy, and he was like, I saw you on the stairs. Do you want to come work with me? I was like, what creepo are you? Who are you? You know?
Yeah.
And he was like, my name is, you know, this and that, and I work at the museum, but I work at the cinema of the museum. And I'm looking for an intern. And I think I love your boots.
Follow the pings.
Exactly.
I mean, that's amazing.
I want you to come work with me. And I was like, this guy is crazy, but you know what? I'm going to go meet him. And he became like somebody that changed my life. As crazy as he was, that's the kind of things he was doing. So, and I think that's the type of people I needed in my life. Crazy people like that just like will hire you because you have a cool pair of boots. And then started, you know, like that was my in into the world of movies, and we would go to Cannes, and you know, I love him still today. And yeah, he was a great guy that taught me a lot.
Incredible.
And taught me that I could, you know, that I could work, and introduced me to people and showed me. And
so he was very much a first expander.
Yeah, I guess like you could definitely say that. Yes.
Like giving people some tools.
And it was like, yes, expander in a way of like, this is how to live. Like, to give you an example, I would go often to work in the morning, and he would be like, get out of this desk, let's go. So we had a movie theater, right? Let's go watch a movie. And so he would put on a movie like old school, you know, because he also knew how to be a how do you say, a projector? Yeah. So he would put on like a Godard movie. So it's really like a, you know, and I would be like, but Bérard, I would call him Bérard, that's his name. I have work to do, you know, I need emails. He was like, so we would sit down and watch this movie, and then he was like, we will do that. And he was like, now you know why you work.
Oh, wow.
You know, now you know what you work for.
I have the chills.
Yeah. And I was like, okay. And, you know, like, just like learn small things like that about how to live. So I don't know how we got there, but that's a good story.
Wait, is it too early to segue into the silent retreat awakenings that you had?
Like do back and
forth.
I
want to know.
Well, because I was telling you that there is a part of me that trusts that I'll make a good impression on people. It's something that actually now looking back, I'm like, oh, actually, I've always counted on that and had that without even knowing, right? It's just so part of my life to be able to make my way. And so it's almost like, I don't know, or maybe when you're like, when you have something that is so obvious that maybe like people who are stunningly beautiful, they know that they'll get into a room and whatever they do, they can count that people will be like, whoa,
or academia, intelligent.
Yes,
it's
exactly.
Same. Yeah.
You know that you're a professor of this and that, and you're gonna at some point in the dinner like say it, and people is gonna
Yes. So it's a superpower.
It's like
I call it a projection.
Okay. Yeah. So this is weird, and I never realized that. I always knew I could count on that. This is probably also why, and it's part of my why, when I started being an illustrator, I went to Paris, just knocked at doors of magazines and be like, hey, hi, I do that. And then, just put I trusted that I could make somebody like me and want to know more. Mm-hmm. Okay. So I go to this silent retreat last week at Spirit Rock. And just so your listeners know, so silent retreat is not just silence, but it's like you can't talk, you can't read, you can't write.
You're just with yourself and others.
Just with yourself. And you're not supposed to look at people in the eyes, even though I think I kind of like got a date out of it. But that's
See, you could count on this story. Even without words.
Exactly. So I go there and you wear sweatpants because you're going to be meditating 10 hours a day. And first, gotta say, I was partying all summer, not partying like taking drugs, but just like dinners and friends
yeah.
and And at some point I was like, oh my God, I cannot believe I'm going to a silent retreat. I almost wanted to cancel. It's like, I'm not in the state. Anyway, I go. And so it's kind of this like, like suddenly like I'm like high up there, like woo, having fun, and suddenly everything stops. And I get there and I'm in my sweatpants. I can't look at people. I can't talk. And it's like suddenly I felt like they had taken away my personality from me.
How amazing.
And I was like, who am I? Like I usually I'm here trying to charm a dog, And I couldn't, and it was a very great. That's why I can tell you about that, because I didn't know ever before that
you rely on it,
but that I rely on it so much that actually it's probably more important than any of my other talents.
What other awakening skill sets, internal dialogue came up for you while you were there?
Honestly, I was thinking about a guy. Then I was thinking, it's not that smart
it's so
stuff.
Tauran.
It's
very Taurus. Yeah.
Thinking like, so I had 4 thoughts. I talk about because that, that come back. Mm-hmm. Thinking about a guy, thinking about how I'm gonna like get in shape. Mm-hmm. It's just, like so fucking like, honestly, like I'm telling you the truth.
Yeah.
And then thinking a little bit about work. Like, I'm like thinking about the future right now. And then there was one other that was even more, like, what am I going to do the next hour? So, planning. Like, okay, so when that meditation is over, I'm going to do this and then I'm going to do that. And like, I shouldn't think about that because everything is really taken care of.
Totally.
So I found myself in front of my 4 dumb thoughts that just kept coming and coming. I didn't have insight. I was very bored. I was very challenged. I was fully encountering resistance. I think that lessons came after, and they're still coming in.
Are they? Do you feel an upgrade's happening?
I don't know if it's like an upgrade. What I feel is like, sorry, I need to think. Because like it's really like I just came back literally a week ago. Just so much, just so much and so little at the same time. It's just like, it's not the epiphanies that you think. And that's what I liked about it.
I think that's special.
It's like, what I liked about it is that anything that challenges the way I see things and what I see about myself, how I see people. Well, also, it was a meta retreat, so it's like love and kindness, silent retreat, and
self-compassion.
Was so beautiful because, like, honestly, like vibrating love for the world is amazing with 100 other people. Is very special.
Yeah.
So there was also that part where, like, Buddhism, and I'm not a Buddhist, but like has this amazing things about it that, you know, make you feel so connected and so wonderful.
Absolutely.
So it's a lot of things. You know, I rarely have epiphanies. I have increments of epiphanies. They happen in like little moments.
Do you get downloads when they happen, or do you just go, that's what's going on?
You know, I always fight a lot with my thoughts. So I guess the way is a little bit encumbered by them. Like, you know, if things come, I know I have good intuition. It needs to go through thinking. So it won't come like as a pure thing. It will come. Process. I'm going to process it. Yesterday I was on a date, and at the end of the date.
Wait, can we preface this? Because I think this is really exciting. Okay. Because we always get listeners are like, oh, the 20-year-olds, the 30-year-olds. But I think you are a massive expander for many women. I read that post that you wrote, I think it was very soon after your breakup on your Instagram, about your age, and that piece about, who's the actress? Jennifer Aniston, and that this whole perception we have of women and how they're pegged, and that you are newly single. Share your age for the listeners.
Yeah, I'm 44.
44. This was 43, right? When this happened, or 42?
Yeah.
And so for you, kind of going into this new world of being single, can you just talk about that to expand vastly the many listeners that age really plays zero part in? Like, we really need to get out of this construct of age and what society says we need to be doing. So I'm quickly interrupting this episode to invite you, if you're ready to start your manifestation journey, or if anything you've heard in our manifestation episodes has piqued your interest, to begin. We have a la carte workshops in everything from the basics bundle, which is what we recommend to everyone who starts. It's the formula that actually teaches you how to manifest, unblocked inner child, and unblocked shadow. We also have a la carte workshops on love and money. But the real gem is the Pathway membership, because it encompasses every single workshop we have. It's a year-long membership with full access to the few a la carte offerings we have, and exclusive workshops not available anywhere else, such as the daily practice, which is what everybody in the Pathway uses, hopefully at least 3 times a week to daily, in order to truly create the new neural pathways that one needs in order to manifest, and houses the library of our deep imaginings, which is our unique hypnosis process that allows you to get into your subconscious and overwrite those old neural pathways, creating the new ones. You can use our special code, EXPANDED, all caps, EXPANDED, to receive $20 off your first a la carte workshop purchase, or $20 off your first month of the Pathway. Again, that's all caps, EXPANDED, EXPANDED. Okay, now back to the episode.
Also need to preface them by the fact that I'm French.
That's true.
Okay, so it's like I already come from a different culture.
Yeah.
So I'm not saying we don't have constructs and pressure and societal pressure, but we do have, 90% less. Like, I think you will never hear a French woman be like, I'm too old to have sex, or I'm too old for this, or whatever. Like, and also like men in France totally like look at women every age and appreciate, and Italians are the same. And I think in Europe there is not this packaged beauty. I think people what they look at is sensuality, like all these kind of things. So I don't know, I've also grown in a world where every magazine has like 20 years old on the cover and all that.
And a lot of time in New York as well.
I spent a lot of time in New York and in fashion and all that. So, but like, there is a part of me that's deeply secure, I think that's also what I was talking about earlier, about the fact that I'm just a wonderful woman and that's all, and I, going to the silent retreat, I was like, wow, I'm even greater now. No, but because I've been working on myself to be a good person, and to be interesting, and not like but I'm curious. I want to know more. I travel because I'm curious. There is all these things that make the fabric of, I've always wanted to be a great person to just, so, and that's something that you build, and you'll have it when you're 75 and even more, so there is value there.
I agree. How it plays in your life right now, being single at your age, I think the preface of French is really important for people, but also how the security I know you touched on. So when we cut back into this, the question, how, for every listener who is, we have global, but for the Americans, I think they do really struggle with this the most, being a woman. Yeah. How are you finding your confidence and your stride?
Yeah, it's interesting because when I say I'm profoundly secure, I'm also surfacely very insecure. So there is this layer of like deep down, I know I'm a beautiful person because of the way I love people, because of the fact that I don't know, there is something inside me that, I just love who I am since I was a kid. And then there is the layer of like, I'm too this, I'm too young, I'm too old, I'm too fat, I'm too skinny, I'm too like all these things, like I'm not rich enough, I'm poor, like, all these things that society puts on us, and that I've always also dealt with since I was a teenager. I started thinking I gotta lose weight, or, I'm not smart enough, or like things like that. So I think we all have that in a way.
Everyone.
This mix of like deep confidence and deep not confidence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that's one thing. Now, about the age, I think what we should do in life is learn. Life is not a poster, it's not a postcard. It's like learning to enjoy what we have when we have it. So now I'm 40, in my 40s, and what is the best way to live your 40s? That's all. That's all. Like when I was 30, what is the best way? When I was 20, what is the best way? Party, go out, have fun. And I was always conscious of that, even though there was a lot of anxiety. That's why I'm saying there is two levels, right?
Totally, the polarity.
Yeah, exactly. So there is the level where I'm like, I know I'm 20, and I know this is the time where I should go on ragers, have fun, have boyfriends, girlfriends, like all of it. Experience, travel, like hitchhike anywhere. Like, I don't know. I did a bunch of stuff. And sometimes people are like, how many lives did you have? A lot, because I was like, no, this is the moment. In my 30s, I have to say, I wasn't even really conscious what was happening, because I got on that success wave, and I was just working, which is also a great thing to do when you're in your 30s.
I think
you
so.
have that energy, you like, and so my 40s are like that. It's like, how, with all the things that I'm learning from my meditation, my work, the lessons that life sent me, thank her, who do I want to be from that? And to me, that's much more fascinating, interesting than worrying about what I am, like what I'm 40-year-old, like woman. And I don't think, I just like want to have problems that are at least interesting.
I love that.
Like if I have problems, at least make them interesting, not boring problems that, what am I going to do? Like get younger?
Yeah.
I
agree.
So I don't mind asking myself a ton of questions. I don't believe in like that, at some point we're arrived anywhere. But as long as I feel like it's in the right direction, then I'm fine with it.
Does this ever happen to you? This is a personal note that's been coming up for me lately, but I think a lot of people have these epiphanies, and as a meditator as well, I've just sort of reached a place where I can really take away the human form and the ego and get into like that vastness of black, of no personality, nothing. It's just openness. But what's been coming up for me since discovering that point is like, oh my gosh, I've got to experience everything right now. Like in this life, it'll come to an end at some point. Have you ever faced that?
Experiencing
time, like do everything I can, it's time to like, don't waste time right now. That's sort of one thing that's coming up for me a lot.
Yes, but I also value, to me, like not wasting time is also taking time to do nothing. So I value every quality of time, the time where you do so much that you can't even sit down, and the time when you're actually like, I just come out of a 3-year time where I basically didn't do much, and I've loved it.
Amazing.
And I'll remember it, as a good time of growth and self-care and searching for my new embodiment of who I am, like all these kind of things. So it's hard because like you have such good questions that they're deep and they're so interesting. And I think the deeper you go, the less it can be rules. The more you realize that there is no rules, no
time and space,
that everything is personal experience, that things are never perfect, that, that everything is moving. And at the moment that you embrace that chaos is when you actually reach this peace, you're like, oh, this is happening. Okay. But the center is very like grounded and like,
and that acceptance. Yeah. Okay, let's pivot into dating.
Oh, okay. All right.
Tell us what's going on. How are you approaching it from a magnetic standpoint? And all the things that you're talking about really exemplifies your magnetism, for lack of a better word. It's embodiment, understanding your charisma, who you are at this age, this next projection of self and self-definition of where you're headed. How is that for the listener who is calling in their partner or wanting this experience within themselves? They may be at this tipping point too.
Well, I don't think your listeners will take me as any type of expander or like example. I'm probably the anti-example for people because like I'm single in my 40s, and that's probably the biggest fear of most people, including myself, right? So they're going to listen and going to be like, I'm not going to listen to any of her advice because she literally fucked up the whole thing.
I don't think so, though. I got to witness some of this, and I think you really took a huge leap of faith, outside of love even. You took this leap of faith that there's more for me that's right out there.
And do you remember that you gave me a thing and you were like, yeah, he's not the guy for you. And I was like, she's right.
I was like, leave. But I was really proud because at the time I wasn't seeing your feed come up, and that was the first post I saw come up, and I was like, watch what these next few years have for her. So I think that is so expansive for listeners, and I think many of them will be tuning in.
I mean, here's the thing. I do think my experience is really worth sharing, and I think there is a lot of wisdom in there. I'm just saying, like, if you haven't gotten to that point, sometimes it's hard to see the bounty that it is to be single and not have a child yet in your 40s.
Yeah.
If I was 35 and who I was before that happened to me, I would be like, yeah, shut up, bullshit. And so if you're 35 and listening, I understand. I will meet you later.
When I'm 50 and you're 40. Exactly. And like I have the best sex life and everything's great. Yeah, totally.
Well, more like when, I talk about, I hit a wall in my life and it was brutal. But that's also the best thing that happened to me.
The rock bottom.
Infertility is one of the biggest walls that women, and that's a funny thing, because yesterday I was on a date, and the guy was like, you're not infertile. And I was like, I know, I'm not.
I know.
And it was really funny because I don't know if we're going to get into that whole thing, but it's this system that where women are pushed into that. And if you're 35 and you're listening, you're fertile, okay?
Yeah.
Don't listen to that.
At 40, you're still fertile.
Yes. It's like, don't listen. Like, just keep fucking.
Yeah.
And, it's just like...
Get into the sun. Go live the Corsican life
you were living.
You'll get pregnant.
Yeah.
Like, no problem.
I mean, it's always hard to say because also my friend, one of my friend couple is trying to have a baby. Like, if anybody told me that I'm going to have a baby the second I stop trying, I'm going to murder them.
I know, it's the worst.
I totally agree.
I do have to say this.
Nobody should give advice.
I know.
Everybody shut up.
And I can say this equally because I've struggled now, I think 3 years. And I think that's the one.
So I didn't know, because I think last time I saw you, just for the listeners, Lacey and I know each other, but we don't we've seen each other once.
Yes.
And we kind of touched upon subjects, but so I don't know where you are exactly.
Yeah.
Can you talk on your podcast?
Absolutely. I always do all the time. I'm really open about it because I think it's super important. And I'm really thankful because listeners will write in and they'll tell me about their experiences. And I do read every one of them. But I also, most of them are like, the moment I stopped trying, and I'm like, I did that for a year. I know my journey is supposed to be a little bit different just because that's how I learn all things in life. It's always through a rock bottom.
Yeah.
So I know I'm supposed to experience that in this to be a good mom. And however I am a mom, how that shows up, whether it's adoptive or biological, I'm open to both. But that's always the funniest advice. It's like, just stop. But I did meet this ultra chic.
Or like, I have this one friend, you won't believe what she did.
Totally.
And then it worked. And you're like, oh.
I know. It's like all the outlandish things. She ate grapes for the summer.
I know. Eat ice cream, somebody told me. And I was like, I've already put on 10 pounds because of the fertility things. I'm not eating ice cream.
Totally. I know your friend. I totally understand everything. And you went through that too, which you're very open about as well.
Yeah. I think it's our role as women. I think this is real feminism.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's important to open these conversations up.
This is like the more quiet, loving, that's how we are like grown-ups, like, talking to younger women is like, share the truth of our experiences, and that's a lot already.
And empower. Those are the two.
Of course.
Two best things.
But yeah, of course. I mean, that's not going too feminist.
Yeah, I know. I can't. Yeah. I get in trouble when I do, so I'm not doing that. But okay, so now you're dating, and what does that look like now for you?
Well,
what lessons did you learn?
Each time you ask me a question, I have to backtrack because I need to tell everyone that I hadn't been single since I was 13 years old. My first relationship was 7 years, from 13 to 21 or something. And then I don't know if I could do the full thing, but it's basically like 7 years, 4 years, 5 years, 7 years. Like one day I was like counting all these. I was like, how old am I? But the thing is that it was like from one guy to the next and basically zero time in between. Zero. The most time I had was 3 weeks.
Wow. Yeah. That's amazing.
I am not proud of that.
I know, but I think it's really important to experience and then have awareness.
Exactly. That's also why I want to explain that before I start talking about how I date, because I've never really dated. I don't know, for some reason. And it's not because, I attract love.
Serial monogamous.
No, it's because I have a big problem with solitude, and I'll just like pick the first guy coming, or like just like let a relationship kind of simmer as I'm looking for somebody else in the background. It's really not good. And I'm not proud of it, even though for years I was justifying myself by saying like, I just love love.
Yeah.
Dumb.
I'm French.
Dumbass. Yeah, I'm French. Yeah, sure. You have an issue. So I've been single for the first time in my life for less than a year. Well, single, but also dating in America, this is an absolute insanity.
What are you dating on right now?
So I'm on Raya.
Yeah, that's what I did.
And did you meet your guy on Raya?
No. I met
Who are
two
you gonna meet on Raya? These guys are so weird.
What's even popping up?
It's just like,
at the time it was like Chandler from Friends. It was so random and cheesy.
I still try to like, what's his name? Ben Affleck.
I know Ben
he's like still like walking on the app. He's like, there's this photo of him walking, and you're like, yeah, sure. They're probably keeping.
Dane Cook would come up. I was like, no.
This is ridiculous. I'm also like meeting people at silent retreats.
Yeah. Wow. So just and no eye contact even needed. This is great.
I kind of don't follow I went there at the silent retreat with my business partner Emily, and she's the good pupil, and I'm always the rule breaker.
Like the
and
dark and the light.
Yes, definitely. And I was like, maybe this retreat will be different, and I'll be the quiet one, and you'll be the wild one. And nah.
Did you watch Fleabag?
I did.
It's like when the sisters go.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Fleabag, actually, I realized. Yeah. I'm exactly the same. I will try to convert the monk.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, that will be my mission.
For
actually.
sure. Yeah, to sleep with the priest.
Oh, yeah,
no
totally.
Problem.
Yeah, that's terrible. It's just...
Sorry, I interrupted.
Wait, where were we? Dating? And, well, so I just like, Raya is something. I tried the other apps, but it's just, I feel, okay, so like, I was on like Hinge for 5 minutes, and I literally felt like I was walking down the street and every guy thought it was okay to be like, you know, I don't know, there was this weird thing, you know, where it's
an
like,
energetic shift when you actually joined.
No, I know. I just, no. I mean, on the app, I felt like it was like being on the street, but like, except like the most random guy will feel like it's okay to
like hit on you.
Yeah, to hit on you. And I was like,
yeah.
I can't. I don't want to have to look at all these profiles.
I know. It's like work.
Yeah, it's like work.
Yeah.
Okay, so I deleted it. But I mean, I don't know. I mean, I don't have judgment. I'm just...
You're following your intuition.
Yeah, I'm just... Yeah. So that's it. And then, so, okay, sorry, I have to say that again. I'm French. And so we don't do the dating thing in France. Like, you meet a guy, have sex with him.
Yeah. Oh, you have to test out. That's totally French.
Yeah. And then let's say like you have sex with him the first or second night or whatever. And then you sleep at his place or sleep, you have breakfast. And then that's it. You're a boyfriend and girlfriend.
Yeah, it's totally.
Yeah. So that's the thing. So I'm still dealing with like the cultural shock since I always was in relationships before. And I'm trying to be more American. I think there is some good sides about it, about that weird technique of being able to date a few people at the same, like potentially be able to have sex with a few people at the same time, which I'm like still like, I can't do that. And I don't know what to tell you. I'm the worst. But I'm also, it's very fun. The truth is, again, like, I know that when the right guy comes, there will be no rules. Yep. No, I'm the worst. I don't know how to date or whatever. So right now I'm just, exploring. I'm feeling the thing. And I've never had a one night stand. Maybe that's finally going to happen in my life.
Totally.
I don't know. I'm just this like weird. Yeah, being a like serial monogamist is a weird thing.
I was always as well. And then I had a 2-year that helped change. But my 2-year was a full blown rock bottom. Like that's when I realized, oh my gosh, everybody's treating me like a doormat. And I had to figure out the energetics around shifting that worth, which was crazy. It was obviously, I was meant to learn that to help people. But I think this is the most important time. And I just think it's why I'm so like, important.
It's so important. Young listeners, maybe do it before you're 40.
I know.
Because like there is like, if you want kids and all that, there is I'm happy where I am now, but like there is definitely questions about, for women, we do have a timing. Yeah. We can't, of course we can do other stuff and that's great. And I might do that, but like it's a real question. So like be single before, take your time.
Totally. Learn, just be with yourself. Learn who you are. Yeah. That you have options.
Well, and also like that you'll never be as happy
as
you are when you're with yourself.
It's so
that
true.
The guy that needs to come needs to add to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And not like take away. Like I've just given away so much just because I was like, that's for love. That's what you're supposed to do.
I agree.
I don't know. I feel like, and honestly, it's a big pattern. You probably know, everybody knows, there is more couples that are struggling than happy couples.
Yeah.
And there are more women that are like basically like killing themselves to make something work than there are like,
or
women
sexually suffering, not getting everyone.
Sure. Well, nobody's having sex.
Yeah.
So
or
that,
loving
like,
it.
That, like, nobody, I have my own, like, I'm asking everyone, I'm like, do you have sex? And people are like,
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what's going on.
I know.
Why is nobody having sex?
So busy. And I think so much stimulation.
I don't think it's because people are busy.
Do you think it's like, if you go back to Corsica, let's say, because culturally, I mean, even Italian, Spanish, and French, people are just so much more sensual, right? Forgive Barley, guys. She's so repressed.
Yes, exactly.
She can relate. But like in Corsica or your French friends right now, is that the case for everybody as well?
Nobody's having sex.
Same, yeah. I hear that around everywhere.
Nobody is having sex. Young couple, old couples. I think I know, like, I think I met a couple last time that still has sex. And they've been together for 10 years.
It's the Esther Perel thing, right? Like, we want our partners to be everything, you know, and we don't leave it to intimacy. We're not going to our villages with our problems, and we're putting that all on each other. So it takes away that polarity. I think that has always been the explanation that makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. And porn is a huge thing. Yeah, it's a huge thing.
Also, I think how insecure people are feeling due to social media. It's just getting worse and worse and worse.
Yeah, I think this is a big deal. I think the crazy, like what we think a body must look like to give pleasure is
crazy.
You know, crazy, or love is crazy. And I think there we have a dog situation.
I know. It's like the kids. Good. No,
Barley really is like very strong-willed.
She very much is. I think she's a Cancer. We don't know she's a rescue, but I think she is. Okay, I want to pivot really quickly because I know that you have to get out of here at some point and do things, but I want to pivot into business because I think that's where you're going to be such a massive expander for everybody.
Okay.
It seems like you've followed the trajectory of business very much in accordance with manifestation, right? It seems very intuitive. When you're more authentically you and putting yourself out there, more comes your way. But then strategy seemed to become involved. Tell us how you went from being the one-person blogger to then building the team and taking it professional. Like, what are the biggest takeaways that you learned during those times?
I think to me, the most important thing is to do the work of cleaning. And by that, I mean, have you read Women Who Run with Wolves?
Oh, yeah, it's incredible.
You know, when she's in a pond and she has to like sort out like what's the good weed and the bad and all that. So the idea is the most important thing in life is to know yourself, which is why I think having times of being single early on, or like, you know, a few times in your life is so important. But also doing work like it can be a silent retreat, it can be having a therapist, it can be like all different type of work, because that's the power center of your life, you know, is your relationship with yourself. The problem is like, and that's something that I think that's one of my questions to you as far as manifestation goes, because there are a few things to me that are unresolved about how it works. A lot of people think they want something, but actually that's not what they want. So for me, it's been a lot of trial and error, which is normal, and I'm happy with that. But, you know, like, in the last few years, a lot of people have developed from blogs huge companies. And of course, sometimes I'm like, oh, should I have done that? But deep down, I know who I am. And I don't listen to... It's a practice. It's not natural, because naturally I will look at the cover of Fast Company and see Jessica Alba or someone and be like, oh my God, I should be there, right? Or something. I should have done that. I could do that. But I've also learned, well, first, that what we see in the media is not always the truth and the reality. So, you know, a lot of those companies that are promoted as like being, you know, the end all are not profitable.
Exactly. Yeah, you know? They're just all investor based.
It's all investor based. Next recession. And I'm not saying it doesn't mean that people shouldn't be trying to do that or everything, but like, then there is the part of like, I hate working in an office. I saw investors at some point, and they were like, well, if we invest in the company, we need you at the office every day, and we need you to do this. And if you do, I don't know, like if you start making product, you're going to have to promote it. The same way you see Gwyneth, like, you know, like putting on face creams and all that things that she has to do for her brand. It's part of the job, you know, and those are things that, you know, I've always kept in mind that a creative and I need
a lot
of freedom, a lot of freedom. So that was one of my questions to you is like, how can you manifest when you don't actually know what you want? Like, because, you know, like maybe 5 years ago, 10 years ago, I would be like, oh, I really want this and this and that. And actually now looking back, I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't push too hard or something, because life also brings you what you need and takes away what you don't.
Absolutely. I think it comes down to really two things. So the first being, a lot of people learn, like you're saying, to manifest what they do want by receiving things and realizing it wasn't what they wanted. So that's like the cancel out process. But I think the most important and the most magnetic one that everybody, it's so hard to practice and it takes time to develop that trust muscle. It's exactly what you're doing. It's getting to your core essence, to your total authentic needs, and getting fully in your worth about them and calling in from that place, the details of which will make you happy, you know? And so it's a great example. Like even when I have heard Gwyneth on podcasts and things like that, she loves the investor round. She loves doing the things and showing up how she, or so I've heard her say, you know, who knows if she really loves doing 10 takes of like, this is my new microdermabrasion scrub. But the more that you command from that place of true authenticity, you will be rewarded with all of the abundance you need to support that, whatever that looks like. And I think that what I'm energetically picking up on, you know that, and it's like you just need to double down on it now. Because I mean, even I think the last time that we spoke, you were having an opportunity at hand to become more free if you wanted to or not. And I think I think you have the oscillation between what's right and what do I want? And it's like the more that you really fall, I think.
Yeah. And that's the whole energy of my life. It's like what was right was maybe get married, have kids, but what do I, you know what I mean? All these things.
And then flash forward to you being an alcoholic in Corsica. Now I'm 40.
Exactly. But so, yeah, so no, exactly. It's that idea of, you know, getting in touch with that authenticity, and also, and I think that's where maybe, because, you know, it's like manifesting, I mean, to me, it's like more like, it's how do you get in flow?
That being in flow. It's, for you, it's really simple. We'll have to chat more because I know we only had that one chat. But for you, it's actually so simple because you are the only thing that kind of takes the hose and squeezes it is when you get into that place of, which it even seems now energetically seeing you today is a lot less, is any time that creeps up of why you're not good enough. That's the only thing that ever but the more that you like really stand in this place of how beautiful, badass, like all that, really owning it all the time. I always think of the visual of that, though I don't know these women, but like Iris, how do you say her last name?
Apfel?
Yeah. You know, I think of her on a visual, or women like that. There's no self apology. Not that you do that. No doubt. You know, although we all have doubt, but the more that you get into that place. So it really from us, and then the real tricky part is it has to just be from a subconscious place rather than in the conscious. So the more that you start to, and also looking at your past patterning, how much you've doubled down when you have, does that bring a lot more for you on your authenticity?
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's honestly, it's like what brings me joy and peace.
Perfect.
That's all. No, I wanted to say that for me, the part of my life where I was talking in the beginning of the podcast, where I wanted to prove to my mom that I was worthy, and I did, is very, very foundational and important. And that having a moment in your life where, I mean, you get what you want is also kind of important, right? Because starting from that now, I'm like, okay, I did that, kind of fed that dragon, and I don't know, it would have been maybe a different wall that I would have hit if it hadn't been the case, and I would have learned. But like, it's a good thing, it's given me confidence. Given me like a lot of stuff that I didn't have naturally. So it really kind of helped.
Absolutely.
I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah.
But like, so now from that place of confidence, and also because like, I think, and everybody has that at some point, you realize that you start working and all that, and you're like, well, I don't know, like, I feel like I can do so much, and I can bring so much value everywhere I work. And so there is this thing, and I don't know why, but maybe because of my curiosity, I'm always interested and I'm always learning new stuff. When I started, I did my own website. I was learning. I'm very like, but so, I mean, I don't know. It really helped like create this good sense of trust in myself. Yeah. So I think striving for that is not a bad thing.
I think it's so important.
Yeah.
And you know what? Like, you won't meet a famous artist out there, may it be an actor or whomever, who's not still proving to their parents, and they get to think that, and I think that's super important. And it gives you that deep sense of connection with others, of how to communicate with them. I mean, I think it's really, really, really important. And
it's a weird thing, right? It always goes back to that. It's like, I was raised to please, and it gave me a lot of shit to work on, but it also was a blessing because, like, I don't know, like, I learned to be scrappy and
resourceful
and
have a sense of, cadence and energy.
If I had kids, I don't know, like, I'm like, should I traumatize them a little bit?
Oh, you have to. And I tell every parent that too, who, like, if I work with them, I'm like, I don't care how conscious you become, you're going to fuck them up some way. So that's just part of being a human. You have to.
It's a present.
It is a present. We're literally talking about the present right now, of like, what a gift that really is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I have a question on your thoughts. What do you think is the next thing after Instagram? Because I don't see that like being a thing for too much longer.
Yeah.
Or what are you guys up to at Doré?
We're like thinking about new things, but I don't want to talk about it too early.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about what's going on after Instagram. Nobody knows.
Yeah.
And it could be anything, because there's probably 100 million people working on what's next, but only one or two things will make it.
Yeah.
And I think what we just have to understand is that we live in a chaos moment, and chaos is great because, a lot of things can explode and be interesting and all that. And it means that live more in the present. It's Instagram right now. Don't worry about what's coming next. Just do Instagram. You'll have time enough to jump ship when something new comes. But the only thing to do is to cultivate something that's beyond, if your thing is just based on Instagram, that when Instagram goes away, but like, if it's like us, I mean, you or me, like, I was there before Instagram. I don't know if I want to be there, but like, I'll be there after. My brand will shift and transform and all that. And these are just like ways of communicating. I think there'll always be new ways of communicating. Well, right now, like, Instagram is Facebook, and they have had a monopoly for a while. So they're just consolidating more and more as like, one of the main giants. So I don't know how, the next recession that apparently is coming is going to change the landscape and all that. I'm curious, but I also think we all have to be light,
like flow,
go nimble, nimble, go with the flow. Don't ask yourself too many questions. It's heavy right now. So do your thing like in the best way, with joy and just like, because there is really no way to answer. And I think we'll also miss a lot of things. when we try to predict the future.
Too.
Yeah.
One way that I approach, when people have come, I don't see clients really anymore because they're just doing the workshops. But when they would ask all the time, they were like, how do I, as an entrepreneur, what's the way? And from an energetic perspective and answer to that, it's a lot of what you were just touching on, you and I were just touching on, where it's like, I say, follow the ping, like follow those ideas and downloads that come and just execute the ones that really light you up. Those are going to be the roadmap that's sort of been the case for me. I assume that it's kind of the case for you guys. You have a lot of people generating those ideas, I assume. Can you speak to that for the entrepreneur who's sitting there thinking their idea is not a great one to put out there, or that maybe they're not in touch with their intuition, or sort of your guys' process towards that?
We all have such different goals and personalities, and the only answer I could give to that is to not be scared of mistakes, because any creative process goes along with a lot of trash, you know, like for one good idea you're gonna have a million that are not so good. So that's the only thing. I really think that we're in a time where the less rules you have, the better you'll do, because it's a new world every day. Like there is new things every day. There's new, like, I don't know, 2 years ago, nobody was talking about gender in such a way. And now, like everywhere toilets are, gender neutral and all that. I think it's so interesting, but we can't predict what's, next and what's, going to be interesting. And I think the thing is to embrace what we love to do and stay, the problem now is like, it's more like how to stay informed without wanting to commit suicide
and be connected all the time.
Yeah. Because also like, of what's happening in the world. So it's a very, very tricky time. Yeah. To me, that's the only thing I could say, actually. And I don't think I'm a very good advice in terms of business. The advice about business is everywhere. How to grow a business, What's not everywhere is to say to people that it's okay if you don't want to be an entrepreneur.
I love that.
That it's okay if you're happy being an employee with a great boss that you love and you want to support for 12 years or less or more. That it's okay if you don't want to work and you're just staying at home and your husband is working, or your husband is not working and you're working, and all these things. I think the pressure of being an entrepreneur, it's hard. It's not easy. A lot of people fail. So like my mission, or like what I believe, is more into giving people the power to be cool. I just I don't think this thing of like that being an entrepreneur is a panacea. It's
honestly
thankless.
It's so intense to be.
Yes.
Like, I don't know about you, but at this point I just feel like a manager.
Well,
a creative manager.
That's why I didn't ever want a giant company.
Yeah.
Because I hate what I need to do when I have a giant company, which is answer email all day.
Totally.
I know that about myself, and so I want to stay fluid where I can just keep living a lot, and all that. And so that's what I'm saying is like, try to go beyond the images that we are shown about these like power women. I think the whole boss woman thing is good, but it's doing a lot of damage for women who just want to have a nice life.
Yeah.
And even work part-time or anything they want.
Absolutely.
Anything without judgment, and I think and you can be an entrepreneur with just yourself. You don't need to have employees, or I don't know. So it's that thing of like, to me, I think I'm about bringing softness to the world, and permission to just enjoy, who we are, like the people around us. I know someone that has always been a big model for me, I don't know how you say, somebody that I don't know, because she's just she's like a sister, she's from my village, and her name is Marine, and she's beautiful. She's just beautiful, like physically, beautiful. And she comes from the village. Her family was much more like local, like from the village. And to me, she's a superstar. Like,
wow.
you know, and her magic, like she created this shop that's just very like small and beautiful. She sells like grocery and all that, stayed there. And she always has people around her. She's always like the most beautiful girl in the village. There is this, it's magic, so beautiful. Yeah. And I'm like, how many people do you actually like? Maybe you're the queen of Topanga.
Totally.
And it's amazing. Yeah. You know, and like you live that life. And so that's what I'm saying. I'm like, it's okay, like to want different things, and also to remember that, as we were talking about before, time is the ultimate currency. And work,
says Oprah on Super Soul.
She does.
I think that's part of her opening. Yeah,
that's
time. Getting more time.
Yeah, exactly. But it is. That's all
so
we
true.
have.
It is.
You know, money at the end of the day. I know it's like everybody knows once you get to a certain level, having more money doesn't change, right? It's like,
it's so true.
It's like,
and another thing is there will never be enough.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
even if
but there is a study that says that from 0 to like, I don't know what it is today, but like maybe 70,000, the change in your life is dramatic, right? From 70, I'm saying a number that's made from 70 to like the change are not that big, you know? So like, so that's very important to know and to remember these things so
for
that you can pick a life that makes you happy. Like I need a lot of time, which is why sometimes when I think about having kids, I'm like, oh my God.
And I'm also like, oh, is that really my block? Maybe I'm not supposed to because I'm so tired and selfish and I need so much self-care.
I need so much time. I need time to think. Like, it's talking about my date. So the guy, so we actually like, I had no expectations about that date. And we actually have a good time, but I still don't know like what I feel, right? And at the end of the date, he brings me back to my car and tries to kiss me. And it's
number one, can we talk about that? Maybe like French culture, but I don't know about you. The whole kissing on the first date thing, it's like you really have to read the energy. That just should not be a staple.
So true. That was so fucking weird. It's the first time ever that also like in front of the car.
Yeah, it's like a movie.
Like, what the like?
It's so weird. I know Lila just had that happen, and we talk about that a lot. We're like, somebody needs to rebrand the first kiss date thing. It's just not cool.
I agree. But it was cute that he tried. But then I was like, sorry. Like I texted him that I was like, sorry, it was awkward. I just need to process, you know, how I felt during that first date. And it was like, what does that mean? Like, he's super nice. It's like, and we had an open conversation. And I was like, I'm just a slow processor. You know, we had a great time, but I'm so engaged with you that I don't have that second thing that's like, oh, I like him. I'm probably going to need 2 or 3 days
to stalk you and then like, see, you know, no, I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Download like all the feelings and like and
listen to your body.
Of course, there are guys that I just want to jump on right away. Yeah. But some guys, you don't always need to want to jump on them.
Totally.
So
I've actually found, I mean, it's a mix, but in my own personal, because I mean, if you line up everybody I've dated from like Cajun to, I mean, it's just so different. There's no type. I like worlds. I like to go into somebody's world.
Right.
But at the end of the day, I've always found that twin flame, like sexual thing, burns out pretty quickly, but it's actually the ones that I'm really intrigued by.
I've read a book about that.
Did you?
Yes.
What does it say?
So there is this book that's like kind of helping me, but I don't know. Also, I don't know what really I'm looking for. I'm just,
oh, there you go.
You know, because like,
exploring.
I'm exploring. I'm like, maybe I'm going to find the love of I don't know.
Yeah.
I interviewed Norma Kamali. She found
amazing,
the love of her life at like 64.
She's one who seems to me as if she really understands
she's wonderful.
Every authentic, like what she wants to follow authentically.
She's really wonderful. And trust me, at the point where I was like, maybe I'll never have kids, I was looking for a lot of like, who are the women that I look up to that didn't, you know? And she's one, and the way she talks about it is so sweet and so simple too, like so undramatic, which is very important also to de-dramatize that thing. There is so much pressure on women. Anyway, we have so much to talk about. It's really funny. Where were we? Why was I talking about that date?
The date because of processing.
Because of processing.
Yeah.
Because like you know how like Taurus, like, you know, you like this kind of slow character?
Very much so. And very in the physical, not in like sexuality.
Metabolizing
but
for me is like slow.
It's in your body on the earth.
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I'm like, when I am in full energy, that's why I had a crash after that, because like if I don't, it's like my body goes faster than my brain or something, and so I need to have a day in the week where everything kind of like goes back in together.
Meshes.
And the body is like, hey brain, how are you doing? Are we good? Like what, how did you like hanging out with that person? How did it feel? Because, you know, like there is when you're a very engaged person, like I think we both are.
Totally.
Then the person goes and you kind of finally be like, oh, how do I feel myself? Because like I was catering to that person for like, and in a good way, not in a bad way, but like I was
so present.
I was very present for an hour, for 2 hours. So I don't really know, how did I feel when that person said that? Can I remember and all that? So I need to do that. So it's, I don't know why I was saying that. But yeah, if I was like a Fortune 500 like CEO, I would probably be very miserable, have a lot of money, but be very miserable because no time to process. I would probably sleepwalk through my life,
Completely.
Which I did a lot in my 30s, which brought me to this big crash at the end of my 30s, beginning of my 40s. So now I'm very much more conscious that I need a lot of time to check in with myself if I'm going the right direction.
Excellent.
And so that's a big, like, I don't know, I think that's important to tell to people that, and that's why I you know, even more if you're gonna go into trying to manifest and all that, just getting really clear about what you actually need
and what your soul really actually desires.
Yeah.
Last question of all.
Okay.
What have been the most helpful things for you in self-care, wellness, mental health, physical care, happiness? What are your like 5 tools you are so grateful you did or can't live without?
Well, meditation.
Do you have a certain practice you do?
No, I'm lousy.
You just like, quiet. Let your thoughts go.
I do some apps and then sometimes quiet, 20 minutes. I don't do TM. I do mostly like this like very simple Buddhist meditation I was taught. It's big. It's life-changing. There is no question about it. And I saw a lot of shrinks in my life. My mom is a shrink, so I come from a culture where we take care of our emotions and all that. But meditating has been very life-changing. And I don't know, like a lot of things that I do, I don't even realize I do. Last time I was talking to a friend, I was telling me, oh, your skin looks great on my body. And I was like, well, I've been putting on oil on my skin since I was like 10 every day.
That's what you did growing up.
Yeah, every day. Like for me, it's like normal. My sister, I think my sister does, and she's like, how do you have time to do that? I was like, I don't know. It's part of my life. So just simple things, you know. I also have very bad habits, so just like let's put it out there that I'm really not perfect. But I think the secret of me is that I take a lot of time. Yeah, but like just sitting there and thinking and dreaming and if I would say now, if you want things more practical, I love dry brushing. I love oils. Talking to my friends is important.
The community aspect.
Yeah, it's very important. And then writing, I journal absolutely every day.
Same.
It's been forever. Like I literally, like now I do it on my phone because I know it's better to write with a pen, but I can Google myself, like my life back.
Yeah.
You know, what was I feeling with that dude on that day?
Wow.
I mean, there's like it's insane.
Wow.
Yeah,
I've never even thought to take that to the phone, to have that capability of
oh my god, yeah,
glossary.
Yeah, exactly. Like you just type a word and
or
like
index.
all the entries, you know, like and it's like and so that's why I started trying to do it on a book, like a notebook, but I was like, it doesn't have the same value to me because it really is helpful. Like even like with my weight, my weight is been kind of a lifelong practice for me of everything, like my relationship with my body, my relationship with my addictions, with my because I don't have like any alcohol or drug addictions, but I definitely have a very strong relationship with food. You know, that's how I eat my emotions and all that. So, you know, of course, with my meditation practice, you know, everything in your life becomes a practice. You start taking a step back and be like, well, why do I react like that? How do I do this? And so it's the same, like, you know, over big periods of time, I've been oscillating like 10 pounds. And I'm like, even being able to look back, because sometimes I was logging my weight. How much was I weighing when I was leaving that thing? You know, usually my weight will go up when I'm, you know, obviously the fertility thing we didn't have to, but like was a mess. And like also, you know, your metabolism changes, blah, blah, blah. But like also like, you know, when I'm unhappy, I will get, you know, more heavy. So like, it's also like your body is communicating with you
all the time.
And so,
or if you're in a relationship that's not right for you, or a job circumstance, all of that. It's just like all the way, skin, everything starts to present. Oh my gosh.
So the diary is a good way to like check back and be like, feel the big tendencies, because, you know, we live on a daily basis. But then when you look back, you're like, wow, I was in a cycle of that. And
the patterns.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, truly last question.
Okay.
What, and it doesn't have to be specific things or material things, but what are you calling in, or essences? What are the next manifestations, the energy of them that you're calling in, or the experiences, or even if it's on the material plane? What does that look like for you?
Honestly, like very honestly, peace and happiness.
Great.
That's really all, and whatever shape it takes.
And you're just open to it.
Absolutely.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But I do have a lot of things that make me happy. I have a home. I might change, but like, you know, I know home is important to me. That's peaceful, like that doesn't have too much noise. You can tell because you're the same. So having a good home base is important. Like there are small things that I know will contribute to my peace, and peace to me is happiness. But like joy, like laughter and all that. So what I call in my life is funny people.
I love that.
Loving people.
Yeah.
A good home base. And I've been, you know, being single, I've also enjoyed so much being able to like just dive into the relationship with my friends in such a much more, you know, I'm going on a weekend with my friend tomorrow, and just like so much big and wide, and even like friendship with men, which I never had before really, because I was always with some guy. So to me, it's like health. That's what I'm calling it, is like long time, beautiful times with my family and my friends, my dog, and this sort of like peaceful comfort around me. And then on a more like creative, like professional path, it's that sense of being engaged and in flow wherever it comes from.
Beautiful.
Right now, I'm more interested in people. Like I thought I was going to sit down and write a book, but I don't feel like the solitude is where I want to be. Maybe also because I'm like looking for meeting guys and all that. So I want to be out and about and like working and meeting people. And so let's see what comes out of this. Of course, I have wants and things that I want to do, but mostly
this is the overarching.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's the umbrella that dictates all the other things.
Exactly.
Completely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Garance.
Thank you. That was a pleasure.
We love you.
Thank you. Love you too.
Have a good weekend, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning into the episode, and I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, we did. And in case you're not totally ready to join the pathway yet, I wanted to share a few of our free offerings that I'll often suggest to people as a little bit of a blueprint to get them started on their manifestation journey. The first place I like to direct people completely for free is the motivation. You can see it linked below or on our homepage as our testimony library. And it's categorized by different subjects, whether you're calling in career, money, love, wellness, and much more. When you're reading about a member's experience of what they manifested, you're actually seeing to believe and showing your subconscious that that very thing is possible for you. The second place I like to direct people is to the free clarity exercise, which is also linked below. In it, you get to try our own unique hypnosis process, learn about the science, and some journaling prompts. And the best part about this, you'll get a tiny taste of what it's like to go into your hypnotic state, bring your subconscious forward, and create new neural pathways while receiving clarity. And the third thing, if you haven't listened to it on this podcast yet, please go back to the episode titled Manifestation 101, where you'll learn the basics of neural manifestation to truly understand this process. So go ahead and check out those free resources, the motivation, the free clarity exercise, and the episode Manifestation 101, all linked below. And in an effort to make sure to have representation in this process series, go ahead and submit any process testimonials you have, especially to our LGBTQ+ community, our BIPOC, as well as the Ys, which is anyone in the community who is 45 and over. All right, we'll be back next week.